one of my favorite ones from you is self-belief is overrated, generate evidence.
Yeah. I say I don't believe in myself. I have evidence. Like, I know what I've done because I have done it, and I can see it, and it's real. And like when people talk about trusting the process, it's much easier to do when the process is paid off for you. It's hard to trust the process when you've never seen it work. But when you've seen it work over and over, like I now know in my soul what it feels like for a book to not be coming together. And I know how if you stick with it and you keep going, it does eventually come together. I know the rhythms of the process. I know all the different peaks and valleys of it. So I don't think that much about it. I just show up and I do the stuff, right? And that's it. The more you do it, the more reps you get. You just have this confidence of like, I can handle anything because I've handled everything up until this point. That's what, to me, what confidence is.
So do you have more self-belief now than you did 5 years ago, than you did 10 years ago?
I guess it depends on what we're saying. Like, to me, belief is, is faith without evidence, right? I have an understanding of what I am capable of, but the paradoxical part is like, how do you know you can do something that you've never done before? This is where it gets interesting. When I sat down to write my first book, I was confident that I could do it because I'd done hard things before, because I'd worked on similar projects. I had an awareness of like the positive traits that I bought, but I didn't know I could do it. To know I could do it would be belief in something that I did not have. I could not actually say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I suppose the alternative to know that you could do it would be that the task that was in front of you was so unchallenging to you that there was no way that you could fail. There's a great Seth Godin bit about how imposter syndrome is just a natural byproduct of you stretching your limits. Each time that you do choose to do something which is so far beyond what you've done before, like, what would it mean to not feel like an imposter?
Yeah, if you're not afraid, you're not reaching, right? And you should be putting yourselves in positions where you're not sure if you could do it. You hope you can do it. You have confidence that you're not someone who quits when things are hard. And these are what allow you to make a rational bet that it's not a totally reckless thing to do.
You know, it was cool. We were talking before we started about the live things that I was doing. You've got some live shows coming up this summer. Australia?
Yeah.
Australia. And I did this last year. And, you know, I had a phenomenal first show in Dublin on a Thursday night. And it was classic sort of slightly rowdy Irish crowd that had had a few drinks beforehand. And it was, I mean, I got like a 500-person standing ovation, which was totally like I wasn't going out there giving a sermon, but it was just very nice and a lot of positive encouragement. And then the Manchester show, which was the Friday, I just ate shit. And it was a Friday, it was a slightly bigger venue, it was a bit brighter, maybe my delivery wasn't quite there. My mum and dad were in the crowd and loads of my friends were there, so I was a little bit more tense and more nervous. And at the halftime interval, 45 minutes in, I was like, I just wasn't happy with how it was going. And I went and I looked in the mirror and I had a little word with myself. And I was like, hey, 600 people came to see you in Manchester on a Friday night. Some of your best friends from your entire life are here and your mum and dad are sat 4 rows back. Like, if you can't have fun with this as your second ever show and give yourself a bit of grace that this is a great learning experience for you. And also, how can you turn it around? How positive can you now come out in the second? And that, you know, of all of the shows that I had, that little 30-second chat I had with myself in the mirror is one of the things that sticks in my mind the most. And that's an undeniable piece in my stack of proof that I can do the things that I say that I can do.
Yeah, and if it had gone if it had just gone swimmingly, you wouldn't have had that sort of moment where I think what you actually emerge from that with is a better thing, which is you have the sense that you can lose your grip on it a little bit and grab it
Bring
back.
it back, 100%.
And so that's a super valuable skill, because now when you go up there, you're like, I got this, right?
Yeah.
You want
things can go wrong. The projector can stop. The mic can die. We did this show in Vancouver, and it was so much fun. That was another Friday night in Canada. This time it was me and James. And dude, it was audience was great, venue was fantastic. Mike just kept on dying, kept on dying all the time. And we had so much fun with it because we were both really comfortable. And I was like, again, going back now, I was telling you about Jimmy Carr, one of the first shows I ever saw him do is Mike kept on dying, and he just styled it out. And you love the guy even more because of how charming he is with going through the nightmare. He doesn't get uptight. He doesn't start shouting at people. It was awesome. So yeah, I think oddly what we want in anticipation is for everything to go smoothly and for nothing to go wrong. And what we value in retrospect is all of the shit going sideways, as long as we come out of it like relatively unscathed.
Or even not unscathed, right? Because let's say you just completely bomb, like it's just the worst. And I've had some where, like they told me the audience was this, so I built it around that, and then oops, we miscommunicated. Like I've had it go really
Swing
bad.
and miss.
And it's not that bad. You know what I mean? Like comedians talk about the feeling of bombing, the freedom of it, because you don't die. It's not fun. It's not great, but you still get paid, and it is what it is.
Strategic learning.
So having the worst case scenario happen to you can be freeing in another way, which is you realize it's not actually that bad of a worst case scenario.
Have you got any advice to people who are going through a difficult time, financially, emotionally, relationally, whatever it might be, and they're thinking, is there a way that you've been able to project out ahead the fact that in retrospect, this is going to be something that I'm really going to value?
Yeah.
That going through difficult times at the time just sucks so hard. Have you been able to sort of meta-cognizant pull yourself out a little bit more?
Yeah, Freud said once, in retrospect, the struggle will strike you as most beautiful. Like the years of struggle will strike you as most beautiful. And it's true. You think about the worst moments of your life from earlier. Now they're integrated into who you are. And in some ways, we understand that we couldn't and wouldn't be where we are without those things. We know not only is that true in a positive way, but it's also just true in how the mind works. Like the mind is really good at this is what cognitive dissonance does. It works on you in a way that makes this thing for the best, even if it wasn't for the best. Like we're so worried about, and some of the cognitive psychology on this bears it out too, is like we're worried about like, will I regret it? You won't regret it because you actually don't have that many regrets at all. That's the mind is pretty good at minimizing that feeling of regret. We convince ourselves that what happened was for the best. So we know this is almost certainly where we're going to end up in 6 months, in a year, in 10 years, in 30 years. And so why torture yourself in the interim, right? Why not give yourself some of that grace now? Why not go, hey, I understand that this is going to be a thing that forms me as a human, and in the future, I will be grateful for it. Maybe I can't get there right now. There's this story, Hemingway moves to Europe with his wife. He's writing in France. He's struggling as this journalist, writer, freelancer. And he has this meeting with this editor, and he's meeting with him, and he telegraphs his wife and says, hey, like, I need you to come meet me. This is Hadley. And so she gathers up all his stuff. She's thinking that Hemingway's going to want to show it to this editor. And she hops on the train. She stops in Lyons or somewhere in France, and gets off the train for a second to grab a newspaper or whatever. And she comes back, and the briefcase full of all of Hemingway's writing is gone. Everything he has done in his life up until this point, just gone. They don't know if someone stole it. They don't know if she lost it. They don't know if it was thrown away. So Hemingway loses everything that he had produced up until this point. And it's obvious, like when you hear the story, you know, okay, yes, this was the defining moment. He reinvents his style. He comes back from, we know how the story ends. But there's this letter that he writes to Ezra Pound, and he goes, this is right after it happens. He's telling him the story. And he goes, I know you're going to tell me this is all for the best. It's all going to work out. I should be grateful that it happened. And he says, but I'm not there yet. And I love that because I think that's an important, it's okay to not be there. It's okay for it to feel shitty when you've gotten dumped, when you've failed, when you've lost a bunch of money, when you've had to admit defeat on something. It's okay. But you can simultaneously know that in the future, you don't have to feel the same way, and you almost certainly won't feel the same way. And I like that Hemingway said, I'm not there yet. he got there, but he wasn't there yet.
So this understanding of the process, this sort of acceptance of my own psychological fallibility, but this hope in the future as well.
Yeah, and he does get there very quickly, like almost immediately he starts writing again, and his sparser sort of Hemingway-esque style comes as a result of this kind of burning, unintentional burning of the boats behind him. And he even fictionalizes the scene where this happened to the writer. So he's able in that scene to articulate everything that Ezra Pound was trying to say to him in this moment, but he wasn't there yet. And so like when the Stoics say the obstacle is the way, like I try to be, I'll get people to be like, hey, my brother-in-law just got diagnosed with cancer, or my spouse cheated on me, or my company just failed. I don't like give them the book and be like, this is awesome, like really, really soak this shittiness in. I like, it sucks to be a person, and devastating, heartbreaking things happen. It's just knowing that you can put the work in on that, and you can get to a place where you feel very, very differently.
In other news, this episode is brought to you by Momentous. Trust really is everything when it comes to supplements. A lot of brands may say that they're top quality, but few can actually prove it, which is why I partnered with Momentous. They have the most rigorous testing and production standards of any supplement company I've ever found. One of my favorite supplements from them are their sleep packs, which contain an evidence-backed blend of magnesium L-threonate, apigenin, and L-theanine in research-backed dosages. If you are struggling to fall asleep on the nighttime, stay asleep throughout the night, or if you are not waking up feeling rested and revitalized in the morning, this is a great place to start. Dr. Andrew Huberman is actually the scientific advisor for Momentous, so if you've ever wondered what supplements he uses or what he would design if he could, this is the answer. Right now, you can get up to 32% off site-wide by going to the link in the show notes below or heading to livemomentous.com/modernwisdom and using the code modernwisdom at checkout. That's livemomentous.com/modernwisdom and modernwisdom at checkout. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip with Ryan, you will love the full-length 2-hour-long podcast, which you can watch right here. Go on.